This is Dumbed Down Life, number 69.
And that was Paralysis with Lost My Way. You can find them at www.myspace.com/Paralysis2006. Not to be confused with Paralysis 2007. Very different band. Good evening, sir.
Evening, Darren. How are you?
I'm not too bad. So, where did we go? Oh, was it like about a month ago?
We went to Pinewood Studios to watch...
Pinewood Studios to watch the IT Crowd.
We did.
Which I won't let anybody live down because, IT Crowd this, IT Crowd that. But it wasn't the IT Crowd that caught your eye when we got there, was it?
No, it was a massive, great studio with the 007 symbol on it.
007 studio, which you have said has recently had fire inside the studio.
Yeah.
And this particular studio has just been rebuilt after a massive fire burnt it to the ground as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it may have been a couple of years ago, but it's certainly sort of recent-ish.
But were you saying that that's the same stage that the Harry Potter fire was in, or...?
No, that wasn't me.
That wasn't you?
No,
okay.
no. The Bond studio has burnt down twice.
Oh, right.
But I don't know what they were filming at the time.
Well, at the moment they're not filming anything. The next James Bond has been put on hold, mainly because of the economic problems that MGM are having. Now, when you say MGM Studios, you tend to think of massive company that how could this possibly fail? Like Woolworths. But apparently MGM, where a lot of the other studios have branched out and they're working with other options, publishing and music and games and the like, MGM have stayed pretty tight to just doing films and DVDs. And they're currently $4 billion in debt.
Jesus.
So despite having sort of the big money makers and the last Bond film was the highest grossing Bond film of all of them, when they're making sort of 365 million, you think, wow, that's a lot of money. But then that's just a drop in the ocean when you already owe $4 billion.
Plus, I mean, isn't if it earns 300 million box office receipts? How much did it cost to make the film?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you can gross £1 billion, but if it costs you £1.01 billion to make the film, you've made a loss.
Yep.
So it's more the profit margins that are the issue rather than the amount it grosses, isn't it?
Yep. But apparently, it's the fact that they are so specifically making films and not going into other markets means that if a film flops and doesn't make what it cost to the profit isn't greater than what it cost to make, then that's where they've lost a lot of their money.
But there have been quite a lot of James Bond games, haven't there? So who releases those?
The James Bond games are made on license from MGM. So they're not going to make the same amount of profit as if they'd done it in-house.
So do the other film companies that have branched out, are they making these games in-house then?
Well, they're companies like Sony and people like that are, they make games, they make films, they make music.
So that's more of a... because, I mean, Sony didn't start out making films. As far as I'm aware, MGM, that's all they've ever done. So it's more a case of other entertainment companies moving into funding films rather than the other way around.
Also, they've had a lot of problems with management and in-house fighting and problems that it's been quite a liquid sort of company at the upper levels. And now it's owned by a group of other companies, and it's all a little bit fluid. So it's not something that's attractive for anybody to buy. It's very unlikely that anyone is going to come in and say, right, well, we'll take everything, thank you very much. What they're going to get is bidding wars on, well, we want the Bond franchise, and we want the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang franchise, and this sort of thing.
It was is MGM? Are they the Wizard of Oz?
Wizard of Oz was one of theirs.
Yeah.
A lot of the
Gone with the Wind, was that one of theirs?
Yes, that was one of theirs as well. And they've got some sort of cherry-picked ones that are good like that. But then I would guess that they've also got a lot that nobody would ever have heard of. They were still making musicals. Apparently, after the war, the musical sort of fell out, and they didn't really sell as many. So that's possibly where they lost a lot of their money before sort of coming into our generation of movies. They already come into our generation with a debt,
and they've never been able to pay it off.
Exactly, and that's what's been the problem. But yeah, it's they're saying that if it comes to it, then the Bond franchise is certainly not dead. It's just pining for the fjords.
Doom 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 Well, I woke up hungover again, and I vow right now it's the last time I give in. So to commemorate, I'll go out and tie one on. I guess I'll quit drinking when you're gone. If I put off till tomorrow what I wanted yesterday, I'll just sit here till the future come and slap me in the face. If I don't change my direction and I float out here in space, then you can't say that I've ever lost my way. Well, I finally gave up smoking too. At least I thought that's what I told myself I'd do. Then in a cloud of smoke my car moved to LA, and my girlfriend got towed away. Well, if I put off till tomorrow what I wanted yesterday, come on, I'll just sit here till the future come and slap me in the face. If I don't change my direction and I float out here in space, then you can't say that I've ever lost my way. Well, I'm tired of being a whipping boy, and I'm tired of being Fortune's favorite toy. So when the sun comes up, well, I'll grab it with both hands. Lord knows I need a change of plans. And if I put off till tomorrow what I wanted yesterday, I'll just sit here till the future come and slap me in the face. If I don't change my direction and I float out here in space, then you can't say that I've ever lost my way. Then you can't say that I've ever lost my way.
Matthew Ebel with "Lost My Way." Very Bobby McFerrin, was it?
Yes. I've heard this song a couple of times on the Bugcast, and you say you think we've played it on here as well.
If we haven't played it, it might be because I've heard it on the Bugcast, but we've definitely played Matthew Ebel a few times.
Is absolutely staple diet for this show, and fantastic proponent of pod-safe music.
Absolutely. Now, you know, I've been involved in scouting for quite a large portion of my life. We've discussed it a few times over the course.
So you could have made it more topical by saying, you know, that I've been involved in scouting for boys, because that would make you sound like you know what your music's, you know.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe not. No, definitely wouldn't work. I'm not Catholic. Ooh.
No, that's not what I was talking about. The group, Scouting for Boys. Have you not heard of the group?
No.
Oh, dear. So you're a proponent of this pod-safe music, and you just have no idea about the charts and what everybody's paying for, have you?
No, haven't a clue. No, definitely not. Anyway.
Yeah, dib, dub, yes.
Don't you... Oh. Do you know I'm coming down at the weekend? I am going to slap you senseless. They never did say that. Honest.
But slapping senseless was one.
You can get a badge in it. Talking of badges, the reason I want to talk about scouting is apparently they've seen a massive increase in people joining the movement.
A massive increase?
Massive increase. By about 16,500 in the last year.
Blimey.
Membership's now up to nearly 500,000 people. Wow. That's across the whole range from Beavers, Cubs, Scouts. They're not called Venture Scouts anymore. I'll get a little bit hazy with what happens after Scouts. But yeah, there's 500,000 members now. And they've put a lot of it down to the new activities that they've introduced, new badges that they can get. And these include things like parascending. Are you aware of zorbing?
Oh, yes. I so much want to do zorbing.
For anybody who doesn't know, zorbing is a huge inflatable ball that you get strapped into the centre of and pushed down a hill.
Well, there's two kinds of zorbing, actually. There's dry zorbing and there's wet zorbing.
Yeah, which is the same thing on a lake, isn't it?
Well, no. Wet zorbing is you're not strapped in.
Oh, good God.
You're put into the ball, and then they throw a bucket of water in there, and then they zip the side up, because once it's got the water in there, of course, you slip and slide around inside it as it's going down the hill.
Screw that.
I want a badge in wet zorbing.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just, I think it's fantastic that kids are getting out there and doing stuff that they probably wouldn't get a chance to do otherwise.
But stuff like parascending and that wasn't. Oh, I would have thought that's been a staple diet of the scouting trip. No,
abseiling is. Abseiling being when you jump off the side of a cliff face with a rope.
Yeah.
Parascending being towed behind a boat or a Land Rover on a parachute. No, I've never seen that done before in scouting. And when I left scouting, when I stopped being a leader, part of it was time and interest. I'd been involved in it since I was 8, and I'd got up to my mid-20s, and basically I'd had enough. Yeah. But a lot of it was down to the fact that as a leader, because of health and safety and fear of litigation and all of that kind of stuff, there were so many forms and courses and training that you had to go on before you could even take the kids away to camp, let alone jump off the side of a cliff or...
Right, but surely there are companies that are set up to do throwing kids off of a cliff.
There are.
And they then have their own paperwork and whatever that they fill out. No?
There are, but you have to pay for them. And scouting being a donation-only organisation, you've only got limited funds.
So, as a scout, I wouldn't have to pay to go on a rock climbing holiday.
only a very small amount, but I suspect that companies that provide these services, obviously the Scouts movement wouldn't do zorbing, so I'm guessing this is probably where they're moving into. But certainly when I was a Scout, when I was a Scout leader, we just didn't have the funds to pay somebody else to come in and do it, or we didn't have the skill set ourselves to do it. So there's obviously been some kind of a shift in the
funding model somehow.
The funding model, and possibly even the bureaucracy of Scouting that's allowing the kids to do stuff. Because we found ourselves, at our height, we had 2 troops in our Scout group. Scout group being the whole range from kids from like 6 to 21. The troop is just the Scouts, the 14 to 18-year-olds. We had 2 troops in our group, met on separate nights, and over a period of about 4 or 5 years, we were down to about 8 kids on one night.
Yeah.
And it was all down to the fact that we couldn't do anything exciting.
Yeah.
Because we just had so much paperwork and training to do that none of the leaders could afford. We could afford the time to go and do the training, but then had no time left to actually take the kids anywhere to do anything.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So there's obviously been some sort of shift, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. I'm really, really pleased about it. I think it's possibly helped by the last 2 Chief Scouts, which is the head of the order, so to speak. They've both been quite high profile personalities.
Right.
The last Chief Scout was Peter Duncan, who you'd probably remember from Blue Peter.
And Duncan Dares, of course.
And Duncan Dares, yeah.
And Flash Gordon.
Yeah. But at the moment, the new Chief Scout, I think we mentioned it on the show a little while ago, is Bear Grylls, the survivalist.
I don't know whether it's the children that are deciding to go to these things, or whether it's the parents going, "Oh, look, it's Bear Grylls. We'll send our kids."
That's entirely possible, yeah. But whatever's happening, it's definitely making some sort of a difference, because there's now a waiting list.
A waiting list, goodness.
There's a waiting list of 35,000 people waiting to get into Scouting, and it's purely down to a lack of leadership.
So with this lack of leadership and all these changes and so forth, are you going to be going back into it?
I knew you were going to ask that question. And I'd love to say yes, but I don't think so. I don't think I've got the... I just don't think I want to devote time to something on a regular basis. I think I have enough trouble sort of doing things like this every week, which, being honest, nobody's relying on me to do this. I wouldn't want to be in a position where I was being relied upon. But I'm certainly very, very pleased that Scouting's coming back.
Oh, baby. And you are listening to the Bugcast. We'll play some fantastic music and we'll have a chat about some stuff. Thank you very much, Caroline. Rule number 1 of podcasting, and citronella will keep more than just bugs away. Because it's the music and the talking that keeps bringing me back for more.
Excuse me?
Head along to the Bugcast chat room at thebugcast.org/live.
What?
If you can just wait the next few minutes before you fall asleep.
Okay, I'm blushing now.
In Yorkshire, anything's possible.
So, how patriotic are you, sir?
Not in the slightest.
Well, it seems that you're in the majority. There's been a recent study of many countries within Europe asking basically how patriotic they are. And we've come 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
You could have counted this
9th.
before we came on.
I could have done, but I'm busy playing songs and shuffling things around. Leave me alone. Yeah, we've come 9th.
Out of 1, 2, 3.
Well, the information I've got only goes down to 9, which puts us at the bottom. But I suspect there was quite a few more in there. But the source I got it from is likely to put us at the bottom, just so they can say we're at the bottom.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently, people were asked to rate their patriotism out of 10, and average Englishman gave a 5.8.
I guess I would have to look up the definition of patriotism.
Well, it's things like being proud to be English, and this is specifically English, not British.
Yeah.
Because the Scots gave themselves 7.1, and the Welsh gave themselves 7.06, and the Irish gave themselves 6.72. And I think this is the problem. We're kind of conditioned, I guess, to call ourselves British because we're part of the United Kingdom, we're part of Britain. And as a generalisation, I think the English specifically kind of go along with that. But the Scots, the Welsh and the Irish really have kept their own identity, which is something I think the English have lost.
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to, like you were saying, again, defining what is being patriotic. I mean, it's difficult to be... Are we supposed to be proud that we pushed the Welsh out and that we pushed the Scottish out, and that if that's what makes you patriotic, not particularly.
But it's things like, do you know when St George's Day is?
Only because there's a big Facebook thing saying that it ought to be a holiday.
Yeah.
And it's Friday, coming Friday, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's April the 23rd.
23rd, okay. Yeah.
Right day, wrong date.
It's only because of these Facebook groups saying make St George's Day a holiday, and it's like, who was St George? I mean, didn't he rid the country of dragons or something?
Allegedly, yeah.
Yeah.
But apparently 66% of English people don't know that St George's Day is on the 23rd of April.
If you'd have asked me last week, I wouldn't know.
It's the fear of flying the George's flag, the English flag, the St George Cross. Because, and I think a lot of it, from what I can gather from the report that I read, a lot of it is through misunderstanding and fear, in that people assume that if you fly your St George's Cross, the local authorities will take a very dim view of it and ask you to remove it.
No. Well, personally, I think that some of my tie-ups with the St George's Cross is that the only place that you do ever see that is when it's associated with football
and hooligans and
racism, that kind of, and racism. Yeah, and it's almost something to be ashamed of.
This is the problem, and that's where it sort of boils down to. People are afraid of being called a racist just because they're proud to be English, and it goes back to what you've just said. Should we be proud of kicking the Welsh out and dominating the Irish and fighting the Scots for all those years? Should we be proud of that? That is what people think of when you think of English, because it's so tied together with racism and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But look back further in history and look at the Knights Templar. They were pretty vicious butchers as well.
Yeah. Or wearing the Red Cross. It's like,
or wearing the St George's Cross. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good. That's something to be proud of.
So the question is, should we be proud of being English, or should we be walking around going, "Oh God, I'm terribly sorry for what we've done to your country"? You know,
which is exactly what we're doing, isn't it? I mean,
pretty much, yeah.
So yeah, to be proud of, and what are we supposed to be?
Bangers and mash.
Yeah. Our cuisine, I quite like our cuisine, but when it comes to...
What about the English spirit during the war? The other countries had the same sort of spirit, but we were there,
that's the British spirit during the war.
See, this is it, isn't it? It's Britain.
That wasn't necessarily the English spirit during the war. And again, that's during the war. I'm not so sure... It
wasn't when we started, though, was it?
Well, I'm not so sure that spirit still exists.
No. There was a stronger sense of community back then, I guess, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Which there definitely isn't now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an interesting question. What is it to be English? What is there something? What are the things to be proud of through being English?
Stony silence. I really don't know, which is why I would say that I'm not patriotic, because I don't know. I mean, perhaps somebody who is patriotic would rattle off a long list of things to be proud of.
I'm proud of the monarchy. I am a monarchist. I am definitely proud of the fact that we have this tradition spanning back hundreds of years.
Yeah.
You know, we have a more or less unbroken line of royalty that's older than some countries.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, these kind of, that is something I am proud of. Although I feel that the modern monarchy probably needs updating and trimming down and defining a little better. The whole concept of a monarchy is something I am very proud of.
Yeah, yeah. But then again, isn't that a British thing rather than an English thing?
No.
No?
No, I would say it's an English thing.
Monarchy has no say over the Welsh?
They do, but in years gone by, they weren't. They were just the king or queen of England. Yeah. It's only when we became arseholes and decided to dominate everybody that formed the Commonwealth and, started to sort of subjugate, I suppose is the right word, isn't it? The Welsh and the Scots. But the pure Englishness of a royal family is something that I am proud of.
Yeah.
And red London buses, you know, not that you see many of them these days, but things like that. Things are sort of English. Morris dancers, I know they're I know they are a joke, but it's part of our tradition. You know, it's no different than the tuba blowers in Germany with their lederhosen and that. It's something that's ridiculously stupid, but it's our ridiculously stupid thing.
And I don't quite know why I'm here anymore. And I don't know if I belong. It's been so long since I've been gone. And here I'm standing at your door today, praying it's not too late. Out of sight, out of mind, will you take me back this time? I don't think that I can walk alone in life. Was I wrong, out of line? 'Cause I had to question why. Yeah, I couldn't see it, couldn't believe it. You were there before my eyes, before my eyes. I never thought that you would bring me to my knees. And every day it's like the one when you left me. Even though I'm trying, I just can't make myself right. Yeah, why must you lose everything to find out what you need? Out of sight, out of mind, will you take me back this time? I don't think that I can walk alone in life. Was I wrong, out of line? Whoever said that there's a start or there's an end? And could it be this is how it's always been?
And that was Alexx Calise again with Out of Sight. Played her last week with Never Good Enough.
Yes.
Yes.
And I submitted this one for the show this week because we actually got some feedback. I'm not sure whether it's from Alexx directly or whether it's from her promotional people thanking us for playing the song last time. So I went back and listened to a few more of their songs, and I do like her songs. Nice little style.
Yeah, they're good, aren't they? So have you seen the new iPhone?
Yes. Who hasn't?
Yeah, not something Steve Jobs would be too happy about, I think. But the new iPhone has been released, so to speak.
It's a very retro look to it, hasn't it?
Yeah,
it almost looks like a step backwards.
it actually looks like the outer body looks like the old Classic, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, it being so square, it seems to go against the way that the iPhone was smooth and slim, but I guess it's so they can fit, or mainly it's so they can fit this bigger battery into it. They've also miniaturized a lot of the components inside to allow the battery to be bigger.
Yeah. I mean, I've never held an iPhone. I've only really seen pictures of them, but certainly with my iPod Touch, I've only got the 8 gig version, and I do sometimes find that quite difficult to hold. Because it's got a really sort of smooth backside to it, hasn't it? The silver back is really sort of smooth and sort of tapers up to quite a fine edge to the front. And I actually find that, in fact, I've dropped it a couple of times where it's just slipped out my hand.
You rarely see the iPhone not in a casing of some sort, though.
But is that because it's so easy to drop that people have put them in cases to protect them?
Well, that, but also with these browser phones in general, the first thing you do is you buy a case for it. Everybody does it. It's a way of maintaining or protecting the phone, because no matter how sturdy it is, it's still going to get dropped.
Absolutely.
But I don't like the look of the design of this new one.
But is that going to be the final design? Is that just a case that they've put it in while they were testing? Perhaps should elaborate on the story for anybody that doesn't know.
What rock have you been hidden on?
Yeah, one of the engineers who was basically road testing the new iPhone left it in a bar in California, and the guy sitting next to him picked it up, tweeted about it. I think he tweeted about it, and ending up selling it to a website called Gizmodo that do technology reviews for about £3,000. And of course, the next 2 days later, there was photos and videos and all sorts of reviews about this new iPhone. So, yeah, I don't think...
Not long after it had been announced that he'd lost the phone, Apple bricked it, meaning wirelessly they made the phone useless. Gizmodo not having the operating system for that particular revision of phone were not able to plug it into iTunes and bring it back to life. So all they've seen is the charging, the USB cable charging symbol, and from that they've sort of looked at it and said, well, it's got a lot more pixels and they're much smaller, but we can't tell you how many.
And the battery lasts a bit longer.
Well, yeah, the battery lasts quite a while if you've just left it turned on but not doing anything. You know,
because we can't.
They've not, exactly, they can't do anything with it. But yeah, it's interesting how they've got to have these things field tested. But then, that's what I was gonna say. How many phones have you actually lost in your experience?
Don't think I've ever lost a phone. I've broken a few, but I don't think I've ever physically lost one. Put it down and walked away with it.
And Me neither. Now, if you know that this phone that you've got is pretty much platinum,
It's one of probably 50 that are kicking around while people are road testing them.
Let's face it, if the guy's entrusted with Apple's secrets, he's probably gonna $3,000 is like nothing. So I doubt very much whether he's purposefully sold it on. It's how are you going to lose?
Well, he didn't sell it, did he?
Well, no. But what I'm saying is that if you was entrusted with something like that, you would absolutely make sure that you knew where it was.
I'd have it handcuffed to my wrist, personally.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, even with a phone, and your phone now is probably worth 50 or 60 quid, you haven't lost that. You still tap your pocket when you stand up, to make sure you got it.
Absolutely.
It's how on earth has he lost it?
Well, apparently he did. The last thing he did was make a Facebook update that said I underestimated how good German beer is.
Yeah. Okay, so he shouldn't have taken this phone out with him that night, should he?
Probably not, with hindsight, no.
Heinz site. Is that German beer, Heinz?
Oh,
yeah.
God. Do shut up.
Time passes away. Where you going this time, my little girl? Well, I know you would stay. I'd never ask you to give up your world. Go on your own. Just remember you're never alone. Follow your dream, though it may not always be what it seems. Not always be what it seems. And the plans that take us apart bring us together. Search for our individuality, search for each other. Someday our two roads will merge into one. Don't you worry, my babe, there'll be time when the time comes. My friends, they all say, grab onto your girl and don't let her go. Life is too short to wait. Long distance love never works out, you know. Think they're all wrong. Our time apart is making us strong. Freedom we give enriches our lives and allows us to live. It allows us to live. And the plans that take us apart bring us together. Search for our individuality, search for each other. Someday our two roads will merge into one. Don't you worry, my babe, there'll be time when the time comes. Don't you worry, my babe, there'll be time when the time comes. Hoping my words can soothe all your fears. We hang up the phone. From 1,000 miles away, I can still feel your tears. Don't cry for me, 'cause when you return, you know right where I'll be. I'll sing you a song as you lie softly asleep in my arms. Softly asleep in my arms. And the plans that take us apart bring us together, girl. Search for our individuality, search for each other. Someday our two roads will merge into one. Don't you worry, my babe, there'll be time when the time comes. Time passes away. Where you going this time, my little girl?
That was Kevin Merrit with Time Comes, and I didn't hear that song, so I will have to be listening to it when the podcast goes out. Now, this has been a bit of a long show, and we've run out of time, unfortunately. We were going to cover the story about the man whose operation on his testicles went wrong, but we've had to cut that out.
Oh, God.
Thank you very much again for Lance for doing all the technical bits and recordings and stuff, and we will try to keep pushing these out. If you have any feedback, please go to our website, which is www.dumbdownlife.com, and you've got information on there about our email addresses and other means of contacting us. Thank you very much, and goodbye.